Hi, this is Amy Genson, Geriatric Care Manager and owner of Genson Geriatrics Management. And welcome to this month's Spotlight Series. I personally have been working in the field of aging for 30 years, and caring for older adults is my passion. And along the way, I've come across professionals who work with older adults in various capacities. My goal in this interview is to share with the public that the field of aging has a wide array of service providers to help meet the needs of your aging loved one. And in today's monthly Spotlight series, we're talking with Martin Yarnell, an estate planning attorney in private practice in Westlake Village, and all contact information will be provided at the end of the interview. I'm going to allow Martin to introduce himself and describe his practice and how he came to be so committed to the rights of older adults. But before doing that, I want to share how excited I am to have Marty as a guest today. He is extremely knowledgeable and passionate about elder law. His services and input are sought after by many. So thank you, Marty, for making time for this interview. I know how busy you are, so I'll let you get started with your personal introduction.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction. I'm almost embarrassed by it all, but I'm glad to be here. As you said, my name is Marty Yarnell. I'm an estate planning attorney, and we handle anything from basic estate planning to large estates. We deal with elder individuals. We deal with Medi-Cal issues. We handle probate, trust administration. So pretty much anything within the estate planning arena we handle. We enjoy working with the elderly. It gives us a chance really to give back and really help out those who, unfortunately, a lot of times need a lot of help. I originally got into estate planning after the death of my father and realized he hadn't done what he had supposed to, and how difficult it made my life, being the only lawyer in the family. I ended up having to handle everything. So kind of once I went through that process, I realized that, hey, this is an area that I really can put my degree to use and actually help people out. Prior to doing this, I did litigation, and quite frankly, was frustrated because I don't think I was really helping people. Anytime you're in litigation, the only people who tend to win are the lawyers. So when my father passed, I dealt with the issues. I really found that this is an area that I felt I could truly help people in.
I totally get that, because I got into geriatrics because of my 4 grandparents who were very involved in my life. And it just seemed like a perfect fit, because it was, like you said, something I was passionate about and something that hit close to home. Your intro touched on kind of my next question, because I was thinking, when people hear the phrase elder law attorney, I'm guessing they typically think wills or estate planning. But can you touch on some of the other scope of your practice and what that entails?
Sure, and I think it kind of leads to a misconception of what estate planning attorneys do, in that everyone thinks we deal with death.
Right.
And what happens after your loved ones pass. But really, a lot of what I deal with is what happens with a disabled elderly person. A good estate planning attorney is going to help you plan for what happens when mom and dad become disabled. Do you have things in place to allow them or someone to act on their behalf in making medical decisions, financial decisions? And that could be, either using a trust, power of attorney, or advanced health care directive. In addition, a couple of the other areas that we deal with is we help with getting veterans aid and attendance benefits. A lot of times clients will come in and say, we need to put mom or dad in an assisted care facility, but we just don't have the money. Or we need to bring somebody in to help mom and dad. We don't have the money. How can we help them? Well, one way we can do that is help them get veterans aid and attendance benefits. We also deal with Medi-Cal issues. A lot of people are facing a parent who may have to go into a skilled nursing facility, and they're wondering how to pay for that without burning through all of the assets that the non-institutional spouse may have. or not being able to leave, something left for the kids. We can really help them in that area so that we can either get them the Medi-Cal benefit and still preserve some of the assets, again, for the non-institutional spouse or for for the kids or for the beneficiaries.
That is so good to know, because one thing I have frequently come across in my years of practice is that veterans and low income are not only underserved, but unaware of the resources that are out there oftentimes. But you touched on something that I really want our listeners to understand the significance of. Can you emphasize the importance of assigning a power of attorney?
Yes, I can. And I'm going to give you a story that I think illustrates it, because there really are 3 documents all adults should have: the power of attorney, advanced healthcare directive, and the HIPAA release. Those are the most important documents you can have. I actually had a young lady come to me, it's been a couple of years now. Mom needed to undergo 2 surgeries. Unfortunately, mom had dementia, so she lacked the capacity to authorize the doctors to start with the surgeries. So the doctor asked the daughter, well, do you have an advanced healthcare directive? And the daughter said, no, I don't. I didn't think I needed one. Make a long story even longer, as one of my old mentors used to always say. She came to me and I said, well, unfortunately, at this point, the only thing we can do is go to court and have you appointed as the guardian over mom. The really sad part about that is that requires a legal proceeding, and it was very expensive.
And time consuming, I would imagine.
Yes, it's about 6 months and about $7,000 to $10,000. That's not just my fees. You've got to pay court fees. You have to pay an investigator who comes out and meets with everybody. They get paid. And that's being paid out of, if mom and dad have the money, out of mom and dad's pocket. But if they don't have the money, it's coming out of the kid's pocket. And in the situation I'm talking about, mom had no money, so the daughter was having to pay all these fees and expenses. And we were able to be successful. We got the conservatorship. And I asked the daughter during the process, I said, why didn't mom have an advanced healthcare directive or a power of attorney? And she said, well, because mom didn't feel her estate was large enough. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that most people have about what I do as an attorney, is they think, well, I don't have a large estate. Well, in that situation, had they have come ahead of time? No. Did they need a trust? Absolutely not. But had we done the power of attorney, the advanced healthcare directive, and the HIPAA, we wouldn't have had to go get that conservatorship. We would have been, it's a lot less money, and there wouldn't have been the delay in getting the surgeries. So I think that's why it's so important to have those 3 documents, just because it makes life much easier. I'm sure you're familiar with the statistic. We're probably, 7 to 8 times more likely to become disabled in any given year than die. That's why it's important to have the power of attorney, advanced healthcare directive, and the HIPAA.
Yeah, and I also, as a mother of a college age student,
yes,
I realized that this is not age specific. Those are important documents for us all to have.
Right. And everyone thinks just because I'm married to somebody, I get to make those decisions. They're wrong. You still need them. And that's why those 3 documents. I know I keep saying it over and over, but that's why the one thing I always want people to take from anything I ever say is that they have to have those 3 documents at the minimum.
Well, you can repeat it as often as you like, because that's an important takeaway.
Yeah.
What I find often as a geriatric care manager, when I'm advocating on behalf of older adults, in times of emergencies or hospitalizations, I'm frequently asked, when does the power of attorney go into effect?
Okay. It depends. As a lawyer, we always ask, it depends. And it depends on how the power of attorney is structured. The power of attorney can take effect immediately, or if it's what's called a springing power of attorney, it will spring into effect when they're deemed to be disabled.
Okay.
Okay. And just one other term, there's what's called a durable power of attorney. And what makes it durable is that it stays in effect after you became disabled. Because if a power of attorney doesn't specifically state it is a durable power of attorney, they actually terminate when somebody becomes disabled.
Is there are there situations where the power of attorney is reversible if the patient returns to their baseline status?
Yes, yeah. As long as you are competent, you can always revoke any power of attorney.
Okay.
Okay. I tend to make my power of attorneys effective immediately. I know not all attorneys agree with me on this. I just don't want to necessarily have to wait to get doctor or doctors to determine that the client is disabled. Okay. Now, that's usually going to be when I'm dealing with somebody who's appointing a family member as their power of attorney or their advanced healthcare directive. Now, if it's obviously a friend, I may be a little bit more reluctant to do that, and I may make it one that springs into effect upon disability. But a lot of times when we're dealing with family members, I've just found let's make it effective immediately, especially if we're dealing with spouses
Right.
and parent child, unless I have some reason to believe there's some elder abuse or some undue influence going on. I tend to find that it just makes things much easier to do.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to close this up. And so tell me again those three important documents as our takeaway for today.
The Advanced Healthcare Directive. Remember, that's also sometimes referred to as the advanced power of attorney over healthcare. I use the term advanced healthcare directive because I want to keep it separate. Then you have the power of attorney, which allows people to make financial decisions. And the third document is just the HIPAA release, which allows people to have access to medical information.
All right. Like I said, if there's no better takeaway from this than those three documents, then we've served our purpose here.
I agree.
So, again, I'd like to thank you, Marty, for joining us on today's Genson Geriatrics Management's monthly Spotlight series. We're going to close this out with all of your contact information posted to the screen. But until then, any parting words?
Just thank you for having me. And if you have any more questions, you know where I'm at. To get me to talk about estate planning is not hard to do. I could go on for days. So I truly love what I do, and I love working with my clients. They all bring a lot of joy to my life.
And it comes off. It comes off for sure. All right, Marty, thanks so much for your time.
You got it. You take care.
All righty. Bye-bye.
We'll talk later. Bye-bye.